In the late 90s, EA Sports released 2 AFL games before stepping away from the sport forever. In this video, we're going to take a look back at what would be EA's last AFL game, AFL 99. I first played AFL 99 in the early to mid 2000s, and it's fair to say that AFL games back then weren't really setting a very high benchmark. At this point, I was still pretty new to AFL video games. I had played a bit of AFL Live 2003 and a lot of AFL Premiership 2005, so I was pretty excited to try out one of the older games and see how it stacked up. I was pretty surprised to find that not only was AFL 99 as good as the current day games at that time, it was also kind of better. Sure, AFL 99 lacked the depth of modes that the PS2 games had, but it more than made up for it with gameplay that in a lot of ways felt more like footy. AFL 99 is significantly different than the games that followed it throughout the 2000s. The gameplay is fast-paced, high-intensity and free-flowing. It still has its clunky moments, but overall it's a much better representation of the sport. There's some really satisfying animations in there as well. Things like kicking the footy long while on the run and taking speckies feels really good, even if it's ridiculously easy to take high-flying marks.
Dumps the kick forward. What a specky!
We've also got to give special mention to the animation of players adjusting their hair. There's some really interesting tactic options in this game for centre bounces and kickouts. At any ruck contest, you get to choose how your players set up. Do you want them to play man on man? Do you want them to charge forward, potentially giving you an offensive advantage, or leaving opposition players wide open should you lose the ruck contest?
Fisted clear. Matera.
You can also change setups for kickouts. Here you've got a wide range of options that allow you to set up man on man, have your players start in a huddle and spread from there, or even kick to yourself and play on. Although that last one's a little wonky because by the time your players actually completed the kick to yourself animation, they've basically run into the man on the mark. While we're talking about kickouts, it's probably a good time to mention the somewhat confusing kick meters. When you're taking a kickout or a set shot, the game has a pretty standard kick meter for power and accuracy. This works fine for the most part, but it becomes a bit confusing when the game introduces a completely different type of kick meter for certain kickout tactics. A typical man-on-man structure sees the standard kick meter in use, but using a different tactic, such as huddle, brings up a new kick meter with 2 bars moving from the left and right into the centre and then back out. I'm sure there's a reason behind these different mechanics, but it just seems to overcomplicate things. Of course, we couldn't talk about AFL 99 without talking about the fights. Not only does AFL 99 have one-on-one fist fights, but it also has its own slider to adjust just how often these fights can break out. The fighting mechanics are clunky at best, but they are hilarious.
Oh, the umpire's going to have to put a stop to that. What do you think?
Yeah, I think they need a bit more discipline out there.
And as this was the last AFL game to include this, it's got a pretty cool novelty to it. As I mentioned earlier, AFL 99 lacks depth when it comes to game modes, but what is there is probably pretty standard for sports games back in those days. You've got all the basics you'd expect, with the ability to play through a single match or an entire season. You can also play through a pre-season campaign or just skip the season altogether and go straight to finals, which is a pretty cool feature that not many AFL games have had over the years. Graphically, AFL 99 seems pretty standard for EA games at that time. It definitely lacks some attention to detail when you see teams like Freo and Adelaide wearing their away jumpers as their home jumpers, but these are nitpicky criticisms. A really nice touch is how they've more or less tried to replicate the on-screen graphics from Channel 7 TV broadcasts of the AFL back in the 90s. The game also includes all the major stadiums, including a Subiaco Oval before some of its grandstands were built, and Stadium Australia, which wasn't actually opened until the year after the game's release. One of the highlights of AFL 99 would have to be the commentary by Bruce McAvaney and Lee Matthews.
Good evening, I'm Bruce McAvaney for EA Sports.
And I'm Lee Matthews. Welcome to AFL 99.
Kicks long to Modra. Oh, what a grab. That's like a slips catch. That was a beauty.
Yeah, well, we don't like the catch term in modern footy, Bruce, but I guess that was a mark that was like a slips catch.
Look, is the commentary really good? No. And is it pretty repetitive? Yes. But having these two legends in the box is pretty cool. And honestly, the simplistic nature of this game's commentary might be a whole lot better than the stitch it together commentary we got throughout the PS2 days. I always enjoy coming back and playing AFL 99. While I didn't play it anywhere near as much as the PS2 games back in the day, there's still a touch of nostalgia that comes with it. And honestly, even after all these years, it's still pretty fun to play. Now in this video, we've only been talking about the PC version of AFL 99. There is of course a PS1 version of this game, but if you've played it, then you know these are almost like two completely different games. So if you want me to make a video on the PS1 version of this game, let me know in the comments down below and by liking this video. Until next time guys, we'll see you later.